Hello everyone, I am Ragini, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Sita Lakshmi Ramasamy College. In this video, we are going to have a comprehensive view of ecocriticism and its main features. Ecocriticism is one such theory which is the study of the relationship between literature and the physical environment. It is the study of literature from an environmental perspective. It is the study of explicitly environmental texts from any critical perspective or the applications of various environmental lenses to any kind of texts. As we all know, ecocriticism is interdisciplinary, calling for collaboration between natural scientists, writers, literary critics, anthropologists, historians, and more. Ecocriticism makes us to examine ourselves and the world around us. It helps to critique the way that we represent, interact with, and construct the environment, both natural and man-made. Ecocriticism investigates the relationship between humans and the natural world in literature. It deals with how environmental issues, cultural issues concerning the environment, and attitudes towards nature are presented and analyzed. One of the main goals in ecocriticism is to study how individuals in society behave and react in relation to nature and ecological aspects. This form of criticism has gained a lot of attention during recent years due to higher social emphasis on environmental destruction and increased technology. It is hence a fresh way of analyzing and interpreting literary texts which brings new dimensions to the field of literary and theoretical studies. Cheryl Glotfelty is the co-founder of ASLE and the first professor of literature and environment in the United States. Cheryl Glotfelty is a professor of literature and the environment at the University of Nevada, Reno. Her book, The Ecocriticism Reader, is the first collection of its kind. It is an anthology of classic and cutting-edge writings. This book, The Ecocriticism Reader, Landmarks in Literary Ecology, defines ecological literary discourse and sketches its development over the past quarter century. This book actually provides generally appealing and lucidly written examples of the range of ecological approaches to literature. This book is really an illuminating entry into a field of study fully engaged with our most contemporary problem, that is the global environmental crisis. We have another important person in this field of ecocriticism. William Margaret is believed to have coined the term ecocriticism in the year 1978 in that book Literature and Ecology, an Experiment in Ecocriticism. In this book, he defines the application of ecology and ecological concepts to the study of literature. Ecocriticism came as an emergent movement in USA in 1980s and in UK in 1990s. Ecocriticism investigates the relationship between humans and the natural world in literature. It deals with how environmental issues, cultural issues concerning the environment and attitudes towards nature are presented and analyzed. Earlier theories in literature and cultural studies focused on issue, class, race, gender, region, and other subject of critical analysis. The late 20th century has woken up to a new threat, that is the ecological disaster. The most important environmental problems that humankind faces are nuclear war, depletion of valuable natural resources, population explosion, proliferation of exploitative technologies, conquest of space preliminary to using it as a garbage dump, pollution, extinction of species, and other problems. In such a context, literary and cultural theory has begun to address the issue as a part of academic discourse. So, numerous green movements have sprung up all over the world. Ecocriticism is an intentionally broad approach that is known by a number of other designations, that is green studies, ecopoetics, and environmental literary criticism. Ecocritics study literature written throughout history and analyze its relationship to the environment. In this way, eco-criticism as an academic discipline has taken two bearings from major 19th century American writers. They are Ralph Waldo Emerson, Margaret Fuller, Henry David Thoreau. These writers are collectively known as transcendentalists. Their works celebrate nature, the life force, and the wilderness as manifested in America. For instance, Emerson's Nature, it is a very short book. It consists an essay that is reflective rather than philosophical. Another example is Margaret Fuller's Summer on the Lakes during 1843. This is a journal that portrays her encounter with American landscape at large. We have Thoreau's Walden, that is the result of his staying at Walden Pond for 2 years. This book gives an account of dropping out of modern life and seeking to renew the self by a return to nature. So we can say that these three books can be seen as the foundational works of American eco-centered writing. In UK, the version of eco-criticism or green studies has taken its beginnings from the British Romanticism in the year 1790s. The founding figure on the British side is Jonathan Dept, who authored the book called Romantic Ecology, Wordsworth and the Environmental Tradition. In Britain, the Romantic poets reacted strongly against the emphasis on reason and sought new ways of expressing their thoughts and feelings. For example, Wordsworth celebrates the beauty and mystery of nature in some of his most famous lyrics. His autobiographical work, The Prelude, records the poet's understanding of nature. We have another set of British writers. They are Samuel Taylor Coleridge, John Keats, Lord Byron and Shelley. These writers exhibit the emotional descriptions of the natural world. For example, Shelley's Ode to the West Wind has been called the most inspired lyrical poem describing nature. Not only the Romantics but also later 19th century writers showed interest in natural writing. For example, Matthew Arnold, Dover Beach is said to offer one of the finest descriptions of nature. Also, there were Victorian essayists like Ruskin and Carlyle, both of them whom lamented the destruction of the environment due to industrialization. Eco-criticism can be considered as a revision of the genre of nature writing, and it constitutes an ethical stand in the exploration of the subjectivity of nature rather than taking nature as the objective thematic study. So we can say it is committed to the representation of thematic, artistic, social, historical and ideological functions of nature in literature. It is also viewed as a study of culture and cultural products that is in some way connected with the human relationship to the natural world. To an extent, it is a response to needs and problems depending on one's population and urgency. Eco-critics tend to focus what role does setting play in work of art, and also they talk about class, gender and other important things. And also they talk about this concept of wilderness that has been changed over time. So this is an interesting focus for many eco-critics, that wilderness is represented in literature and popular culture. This approach examines the way in which wilderness is constructed. For example, the wilderness in deserts and other lands, and also the scenic sublime like forests, lakes, mountains, cliffs, waterfalls, and also the countryside, example hills, fields and woods. And we have this domestic picturesque like parks, gardens and lanes. So mainly eco-critics focus on these things, and they also focus on the representation of nature in the text and the concept of nature that has been changed over time. And they also tend to focus how is the setting of a text related to the environment, and what is the influence on metaphors and representations of the land and the environment on how we treat it. And also they focus how do we see issues of environmental disaster and crisis reflected in popular culture and other literary works. They also tend to focus animals that are represented in the text and their relationship to the human beings. And also they focus on the roles and representations of men and women towards environment in different literary texts. And also they concentrate on the environment. That is very important. The question is, where is the environment placed in the power hierarchy? They tend to focus this power hierarchy of environment in the world. And also they concentrate how is nature empowered or oppressed in this work, and what parallels can be drawn between the sufferings and oppressions of groups of people, from women, minorities, immigrants, etc., and also the treatment of the land, and what rhetorical moves are used by environmentalists and what can we learn from them about our cultural attitudes towards nature. In sync with these ideas, ecocriticism is a response to the need for humanistic understanding of relationships with the natural world in an age of environmental destruction. Also, we should try to understand that these crises are a result of humanity's disconnection from the natural world, which is brought about not only by increasing technology but also by particularization, that is the mindset of specialization that fails to recognize the interconnectedness of all things. For this, ecocriticism came as a response in order to understand the connectedness of all things. This includes the life of the mind and also the life. In this way, eco-critics encourage others to think seriously about the relationship of humans to nature, about the ethical and aesthetic dilemmas posed by the environmental crisis. They also focus upon how language and literature transmit values with profound ecological implications. It is very much concerned with the crucial matter of the relationship between culture and nature. In this, eco-critics reject the notion that everything is socially or linguistically constructed. For them, the only slogan they follow is nature really exists. Nature is present as an entity. It can't be reduced to a concept which one conceives as a part of one's cultural practice. So, eco-criticism can touch on any discipline. When it is translated into action, it generally comes back to its home ground, that is, the human relationship with the earth. It advocates for an understanding of the world that works to heal the environmental wounds humans have inflicted upon it. Thank you.